Emma brought me back to life. Her dream job tore us apart. I saw a name in her letter. It wasn't mine. I was a wreck after my divorce from Sarah. She'd cheated on me with multiple guys, shattering my trust and leaving me hollow. I needed an escape, something to pull me out of the darkness. So, I booked a solo trip to New Orleans, hoping the city's vibrant chaos would spark some life back into me. The jazz, the food, the energy, it felt like the perfect place to start over. I landed in the French Quarter, checked into a small hotel, and wandered into a lively bar on Bourbon Street. That's where I met Emma Thompson. I was nursing a beer, lost in my thoughts, when I bumped into her literally. My glass tipped, splashing her dress with amber liquid. I froze, expecting a scolding, but she just laughed, her hazel eyes sparkling under the bar's dim lights. "If you weren't so charming, I'd be furious," she said, brushing off the spill with a grin. My heart skipped. Charming? Me? After everything with Sarah, I barely recognized the word. I apologized profusely, offering to buy her a drink to make up for it. She accepted, and we started talking. Emma was magnetic, silky brown hair, a warm smile, and a passion for art that lit up her face. We talked for hours about New Orleans architecture, her love for jazz, my aimless wandering after the divorce. I didn't mention Sarah's betrayal, just hinted at needing a break from life. The night blurred into something electric. We laughed, danced, and ended up back at my hotel room. It wasn't just physical, it felt like a connection, like she saw me, not the broken guy I'd become. For the first time in months, I felt alive. But when I woke up, she was gone. A note on the pillow read, "Last night was incredible, but I can't fall for someone I met on vacation. Take care, Jake." My chest tightened. I'd let myself hope, and now she was gone. I packed my bags, checked out, and headed to the airport, replaying her words, her smile, her laugh. New Orleans had given me a glimpse of something real, but it slipped through my fingers, or so I thought. I boarded my flight back to Chicago, still clutching Emma's note, her words looping in my head. I felt like a fool for letting myself get attached so quickly. The plane landed at O'Hare, and I dragged myself to the baggage claim, exhausted and deflated. As I waited for my suitcase, I glanced across the crowded terminal. My heart stopped. There she was, Emma, standing just 80 feet away, checking her phone by a luggage carousel. Same silky hair, same confident posture. It was her. I blinked, half convinced I was hallucinating. But no, it was real. I walked over, my pulse racing, and said, "Emma?" She looked up, her eyes widening in shock. "Jake, what are you doing here?" Her voice was a mix of disbelief and amusement. We stood there, staring, until she laughed a bright, infectious sound that broke the tension. I explained I was coming home from New Orleans. She said the same. Then came the bombshell. She lived in Chicago too. Not just Chicago Lincoln Park, a few blocks from my apartment in the same neighborhood. It felt like a cosmic joke. We'd spent an entire night together, shared things I hadn't told anyone in years, and never once mentioned where we lived. "Out of all the cities, all the neighborhoods," I said, shaking my head. She grinned, her eyes crinkling. "Guess the universe has a sense of humor." We grabbed our bags and decided to share a cab home. In the back seat, Chicago's skyline blurring past, we talked like no time had passed. She mentioned her love for the Art Institute, how she'd always dreamed of visiting New Orleans for its culture. I kept it vague about my life, saying I'd needed a reset after a rough year. The cab ride felt too short. When we pulled up to her building, just 3 blocks from mine, she hesitated, then handed me her number. "Call me Jake. I mean it." Her smile was warm, but guarded, like she was testing the waters. I nodded, my throat tight. As the cab pulled away, I stared at her number, my mind racing. This wasn't just a coincidence, it felt like a second chance. I wasn't going to let it slip away again. I called Emma the next day, my hands shaky as I dialed. She answered, her voice bright, and we agreed to meet at a cozy coffee shop in Lincoln Park. That first coffee turned into weekly dates, dinners at hole-in-the-wall spots, walks along Lake Michigan, late nights talking at her place or mine. Emma was everything I wasn't used to. Funny, sharp, and so alive. She'd talk about art with this fire in her eyes, describing brushstrokes like they held the secrets of the universe. I'd tease her about it, but secretly, I loved how passionate she was. We were different, though, and it showed. Emma was a morning person, up at 5:30 a.m. for yoga, a run, or some green smoothie that looked like swamp water. Me? I was lucky if I rolled out of bed before noon. My diet was mostly takeout pizza and whatever was in my fridge. Exercise? The occasional walk to the corner store counted, right? At first, our differences were a running joke. She'd poke fun at my late-night habits, and I'd laugh off her kale obsession. "You're gonna make me eat grass one day, aren't you?" I'd say, and she'd roll her eyes, smirking. But the more time we spent together, the more I fell for her. She wasn't just beautiful, she was kind, driven, and made me feel like I could be more than the guy Sarah left behind. We'd spend hours at her apartment, her showing me sketches she'd done, me telling her about my old road trips. I kept my past vague, avoiding details about Sarah's betrayal. Emma didn't push, and I was grateful. She'd talk about wanting balance, how she was trying to live more fully after years buried in work. I got that. I was trying to rebuild too. The cracks started showing though. She'd invite me to join her morning runs, and I'd brush it off, saying I wasn't built for sunrise. She'd suggest cooking a healthy dinner together, and I'd counter with ordering burgers. It was playful at first, but I could see it wearing on her. Her smiles got tighter when I'd dodge her suggestions suggestions. I told myself it was fine, we didn't have to be the same to make it work. But deep down, I knew I was being stubborn, clinging to my old ways because change felt like admitting I was broken. I didn't want to lose her, but I wasn't sure I could be the guy she needed. Things came to a head one Friday when Emma invited me to a wellness retreat in Wisconsin. She was buzzing with excitement, talking about how it'd be a chance to unplug, meditate, and focus on health. "It'll be good for us, Jake," she said, her eyes bright. I wanted to say yes, but I'd already promised my buddies I'd hit up a big party in Wicker Park that weekend. It was a rare chance to catch up with friends I hadn't seen since the divorce, and I didn't want to bail. "Can we do something else instead?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her face fell, just for a second, before she nodded. "Sure, Jake. Have fun." That weekend, I went to the party. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, but I felt off. My friends were laughing, swapping stories, but my mind kept drifting to Emma. I pictured her at the retreat, probably doing yoga at dawn, surrounded by people who got her. I downed another beer, trying to shake the guilt, but it clung to me. I'd let her down, and I knew it. By the time I got home, I was kicking myself for not going with her. I told myself we didn't have to do everything together, but it felt like an excuse. Monday evening, I found Emma waiting at my apartment. Her arms were crossed, her expression tight. My stomach sank. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady but heavy. We sat on my couch, and she didn't hold back. "Jake, I love being with you, but we're so different. I'm trying to build a life that's healthy, focused. You're not there." Her words hit like a punch. She wasn't wrong. I'd been coasting, avoiding change because it was easier. She said she couldn't keep pretending our differences didn't matter. "I don't think this is working," she finished, her voice cracking. I sat there, speechless, as she stood to leave. My chest felt like it was caving in. I wanted to beg her to stay, to promise I'd change, but the words wouldn't come. The door clicked shut behind her, and I was alone, staring at the empty space where she'd been. I'd lost her, just like I'd lost Sarah, but this hurt worse. Emma had made me feel alive again, and I'd blown it because I couldn't get my act together. I didn't sleep that night, replaying every moment, every choice that led to this. I knew I had to do something, or I'd lose her for good. I spent the next few days in a fog, barely eating, barely sleeping. Emma's words echoed in my head. "We're so different." I hated how right she was. I'd been stuck, clinging to my old habits like they were armor, but they'd only pushed her away. Lying on my couch, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. This wasn't just about Emma, it was about me. I'd been running from myself since Sarah's betrayal, and if I didn't change, I'd keep losing the things that mattered. So, I made a choice not just for her, but for me. The next morning, I forced myself out of bed at 6 a.m. My body groaned, but I laced up some old sneakers and went for a jog around Lincoln Park. I was out of breath in 10 minutes, but it felt like a start. I signed up for a gym near my place, the kind with weights I didn't know how to use, and trainers who looked like they could bench press me. I started small treadmill, dumbbells, nothing fancy, but I kept at it. I swapped my usual pizza for grilled chicken and vegetables, though my first attempt at cooking was a disaster. Burnt broccoli isn't gourmet, but I ate it anyway. Weeks passed, and I started to feel different, stronger, sharper. I wasn't just changing my routine, I was changing how I saw myself. I wasn't the guy Sarah broke anymore. I was someone who could show up, who could try. After a month, I worked up the nerve to text Emma. My hands shook as I typed, "I miss you. I'm trying to be better. Can we talk?" I didn't expect a reply, but my phone buzzed hours later. "I miss you too," she wrote. "Coffee tomorrow?" We met at our usual spot in Lincoln Park. She was already there, sipping tea by the window, her hair catching the morning light. When she saw me, her eyes widened. "Jake, you look different." I told her everything, waking up early, the gym, my terrible cooking. She listened, her face softening, a small smile creeping in. I admitted I'd been scared to change, but losing her woke me up. "I'm doing this for me, but I want you in my life," I said. She reached for my hand, her touch warm. "I can see you're trying. Let's give this another shot." My heart soared. It wasn't a promise, but it was hope. For a while, everything felt right. Emma and I found a rhythm, balancing her structured life with my newfound effort to keep up. I'd join her for evening walks, even tried yoga once, though I was more wobbly than zen. She laughed, said I was improving. But just when I thought we'd cracked it, she dropped a bomb. Over dinner at a quiet Italian place in Chicago, she looked nervous, her fork poking at her pasta. "Jake, I got a job offer," she said. "In Seattle. It's a big step for my career." My stomach sank. Seattle? 4 hours away by plane. I tried to stay calm, but her next words hit harder. "I already told them I'd take it. I start in a few weeks." My mind reeled. She'd decided this without even mentioning it to me? After everything we'd been through, I thought we were a team. I stared at my plate, the lasagna blurring as my throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice low. She sighed, her eyes soft but resolute. "It's my dream job, Jake. I didn't want to hold myself back. I wanted to be happy for her, but it felt like she was leaving me behind. All the changes I'd made, the early mornings, the gym, the burnt broccoli seemed pointless. Had I been a fool to think we could make it work? We sat in silence, the restaurant's chatter filling the void. Finally, I spoke. "Where does this leave us?" My voice cracked, betraying the hurt I tried to hide. Emma's eyes glistened. "I don't want to lose you," she said. "Can we try long distance? Just for a while?" I swallowed hard. It wasn't what I wanted, but losing her again wasn't an option. "Okay," I said, my chest heavy. "We'll make it work." She reached for my hand, her touch grounding me. We agreed to try, to call, to visit, to not let the miles break us. But as I walked home that night, Chicago's lights flickering around me, I couldn't shake the fear that this was the beginning of the end. Emma's move to Seattle hit hard, but I wasn't ready to let her go. Long distance was tough, phone calls cut short by bad signals, video chats lagging, and visits squeezed between work. I wanted to do something big, something to show her she was worth fighting for. So, I planned a surprise trip back to New Orleans, where it all began. I booked us a weekend at a quaint hotel in the French Quarter, told her it was just a quick getaway. She had no idea what was coming. On our last night, I took her to the same Bourbon Street bar where I'd spilled my drink on her dress. The place was alive with jazz, the air thick with nostalgia. We ordered drinks, laughing about that first night, how clumsy I'd been. My heart was pounding, my palms sweaty. I'd been carrying a ring in my pocket for weeks, waiting for the right moment. As we sat at a small table, the music softening, I knew it was now. I reached for her hand, my voice shaky. "Emma, you changed everything for me. I never believed in fate until you." Her eyes widened as I slid off my chair, kneeling on the sticky bar floor. I pulled out the ring, its small diamond glinting in the dim light. "Will you marry me?" I asked, my voice barely steady. For a second, she just stared, her hands covering her mouth. Then she screamed, "Yes!" and threw her arms around me, tears streaming down her face. The bar erupted in cheers, strangers clapping like they'd been part of our story. I slipped the ring on her finger, my heart bursting. We danced, laughed, and held each other, knowing this was our new beginning. Emma's yes in that New Orleans bar felt like a lifeline. We spent the rest of the night dreaming out loud about a house, maybe kids, a life we'd build together. But back in Chicago, reality settled in. Long distance wasn't just hard, it was grueling. We'd text good morning, call at night, but the time difference and her new job's demands pulled us apart. Some nights, I'd stare at my phone, waiting for a reply that came hours later. I missed her laugh, her touch, the way she'd tease me about my terrible cooking. Still, we fought for it. I'd fly to Seattle when I could, wandering Pike Place Market with her, stealing kisses by the water. She'd come to Chicago, curling up on my couch like she'd never left. But the distance gnawed at us. We'd argue over small things, missed calls, forgotten plans, and I'd feel that old fear creeping back, the one that said I'd lose her again. I pushed it down, reminding myself we were engaged now. That meant something. I thought about my life before Emma. After Sarah's betrayal, I'd been a shell, drifting through days with no purpose. Emma woke me up, made me want to be better. The gym, the early mornings, the healthier meals, they weren't just for her anymore. They were proof I could change, that I wasn't the guy who let love slip away. One night on a video call, Emma looked tired but smiled. "Jake, I'm proud of you," she said. "We're gonna make this work." Her words hit deep, like a promise we'd both keep. We started planning. Maybe I'd move to Seattle, or she'd find a job back in Chicago. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. As I hung up that call, staring at the ring I'd bought for her, I felt it hope. Not the fragile kind I'd had after Sarah, but something stronger. Emma and I weren't just a chance encounter. We were a choice, one we'd make every day, no matter the miles between us.